All right, what is up, everybody? We are back for another weekly Wednesday live Q&A. These are obviously recorded live on Wednesday night for those of you who are either re-listening on SoundCloud or are re-watching this on YouTube. Today's topic, as we always do, is brought to you by the viewers. You know, I got a lot of people asking me recently, kind of publicly, to talk about this topic. But I wanted to see what you guys had to say, so everyone's tuning in live on Facebook. But the topic of the week is social media and physique sports. And Ben, I see you, buddy. So what I wanted to talk about, and it's not necessarily to rag on social media. There's pros and cons, obviously, and I want to talk about both of those today, and just how social media has influenced physique sports over the course of my career. At least that's what I could speak of. For those of you who know me, obviously know that I've been competing since about 2011. So I've been in the game a little bit. I've been around the block a few times and have kind of seen social media's takeover since Instagram and Facebook heavily influence physique sports. So as I always do, I leave it up to the viewers to kind of leave me questions or especially this week, more of things for them that they want me to comment on. So that's what we're going to do this week. They gave me some things that I want to focus on. But Sam is leading us off strong, as she always does. She said, how do you think social media can help and hurt an athlete in a physique sport? So I'll start out with help. Obviously, a lot of us who compete in physique sports, we don't necessarily do this as our full-time job. I feel like no one, especially in natural body and bodybuilding, does this for their full-time job. So we need some help along the way. We know that it could get expensive. So how can social media help somebody? Well, for instance, myself. I'm wearing my Core Nutritional shirt today. Patrick, I hope you see that, buddy. But anyway, obviously everybody knows that I am affiliated with Core Nutritionals, through my social media outreach, through my coaching business, which has, grown through my social media outreach. I'm affiliated with a supplement company. Now, some other people, are affiliated with meal companies, clothing companies. So social media alone can really give you a lot of, tools, a lot of avenues that you might not necessarily get if you were just in your hometown, if Instagram or Facebook didn't exist, and it was just the message boards like it used to be. So that's definitely a huge plus of social media, is your outreach, and the opportunity is there for you to grow. How can it hurt an athlete? Definitely, it can hurt an athlete by the way that they're perceived. If they, let's say the person is not well liked. If there's somebody on social media that's always spouting off, and they come off very negative, and they just have kind of a very negative opinion on competing, but they still compete, if that makes sense. Everybody sees that, and if they do go to compete, at the end of the day, the judges are going to see that. And one thing that I've been seeing more recently, and this is very relevant, it's the people that you kind of come up with in the sport, the ones that turn pro or that gain experience, they become the judges. So if you make enemies from the very beginning in your career, you're only digging yourself deeper. I'm not saying that you have to suck up to the judges or anything, but just either present yourself as a normal human being, and treat everybody like they should be treated. Don't come off as somebody that's super negative or boastful on social media, because it'll be in the back of their heads. They might remember that when you're on stage, and they may mark you down for it. So there is a positive and negative correlation when it comes to social media. But those are the big two that jumped out right at me. Ding ding ding, Matt said. All right. Oh man, Kenton is tuning in. Yeah, buddy, all the way from Canada, eh? Matt said, dealing with the comparison game. He said clients and competitors can now see others will compete. So how is that? How can that be good? how can that be good and oftentimes bad? So dealing with the comparison game. So this is coming from Matt Jackson, who is a coach as well, and he has a lot of predominantly female clients and a lot of figure and bikini clients, some of them who are very, very talented. And Matt does a good job, and his athletes are very gifted. So let's say this. I'll use Matt as an example since he asked the question. And if one of Matt's newcomers, brand new figure athlete, sees one of Matt's top level figure clients and is like, oh my gosh, like, is that what I need to look like in order to compete? And that might prevent her from potentially stepping on stage. The same can be said for newcomers in the game in general, not even working with the same coach. If they see somebody online that's going to compete in their show, they're like, oh man, like that person's going to kick my butt. They're going to be in my class. They're going to be in bodybuilding open. Like, I don't want to compete against them. And that might actually prevent some people from competing in a specific show. Now here's the thing, guys, and I had this conversation at the gym today because somebody asked me what my video of the week was going to be about, and I talked about Instagram versus real life. And those are two different things. For some people, I feel like I look worse on Instagram than I do in person. But maybe that's just me. So someone that may look fantastic on Instagram, they have the best lighting, they know all the angles. I'm not going to name any names. I'm sure a lot of you guys can already guess. But like even these pro bodybuilders, right? Like these pro bodybuilders will put up these crazy edited, filtered pictures, and then they go on stage and you're like, wait a second. Like I thought, you just put up a nasty picture and you looked super vascular, you were shredded to the bone, and then now all of a sudden, you're 145 pounds soaking wet and you don't even look like you lift. And what happened to all those magical veins that you had on your Instagram and in your perfect picture, So don't let a picture or someone's Instagram account stop you from doing a particular show, because on show day, you might be surprised, a different person might actually show up, and then you could beat them. Like I know, and I've seen it before. And I feel like I don't scare anybody on social media personally. Like when I put up a picture of myself. But like it's the truth. Like I'm not trying to use smoke and mirrors to intimidate anybody. I know what kind of package I'm going to bring to the stage, and that's where it's most important. Although I do like try to take my time and try to take some decent pictures for social media. Like my main thing is to look good on stage. Like although I do want to look good necessarily on social media, like that's not my main goal. It's to look good on stage. So don't let somebody scare you away from competing just because you happen to stroll across their Instagram account and you can end up beating them, and then you can brag to all your buddies like, oh man, I beat this guy, and then go look at his Instagram account. So that'll just give you a little bit more street cred, but in reality, that they weren't that tough in real life. Bronwyn asked another follow-up question to Matt's. He said, what is my opinion on keeping my physique private for private starting peak week, so your fellow competitors don't know what you look like the day of the show? Oh man, I see Vernon Williams is tuning in too. Vernon, you're one of my freaking favorite powerlifters out there, buddy. Keep crushing it. Anyway, in regards to peak week, I think that you should just post pictures throughout. Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Now, I feel like a lot of first-time competitors feel like they're going to pull a fast one on people. But in reality, like, you should just post whatever pictures you want. Like, enjoy the process of posting pictures throughout the week. Like, nobody is really going to, like, look into that much. And although it is, like, a mental game that you could play during peak week, like, let's be honest, like, if we're in peak week, like, that's, like, one of our more vulnerable times. And, you could potentially screw with somebody's head. Now, I don't necessarily like playing mental games like that. I mean, I am a tactician, I feel like. But, there's a time and a place to play games, and I feel like once peak week hits, like, it's game over. So, I wouldn't really worry about holding back on taking pictures. Just go with what you know, and don't really worry about that. All right, let's go back to some other questions here. And Karen's gonna hit us hard here in a sec. Let's see here. What did Kenton say? Kenton said, my first contest, I was flipping through magazines. Some dude saw the cover and thought, damn, this dude's shredded. Yep, that's funny. He walks in, competed in my class. Nice. That's crazy. All right, Karen said, oh boy, this topic could go in so many directions. How about what not to post? And she goes further on to say, half-naked pictures in your photo shoot, in lingerie, LOL, is professionalism key? Well, Karen, I feel like professionalism is key. Coming from somebody that tries to be extremely professional, granted, I let, some words slip here, some curse words slip here and there every now and then, but I feel like for the most part, I try to be pretty professional in regards to, like, choosing on what you post. Yeah, I definitely, coming from a guy's standpoint, and Matt was kind of making fun of me, like, it's different for guys, and I feel like there is definitely a double standard when it comes to guys posting pictures, because, I've seen guys put up, naked shots of their butt, essentially just to show off their glutes, right? And I don't know. I don't think I've done that. So I'm just going to go back on my Instagram and double check to see if I did or not. But yeah, if a lady does that, like, they're looked down upon. If a guy does it, like, it's sought after as cool. So there definitely is a double standard. But I do feel like that, there are certain ways that you can post progress pictures appropriately. And what Karen was getting at is, like, you don't need to, if you're a woman, like, you don't need to put up a progress picture, with no shirt on, no underwear on, and your hands covering your boobs, and that's it, like, to show off your abs. Like, that's not a progress picture. Like, that's seeking attention. Like, you could take the same shot and you're wearing a sports bra, it doesn't matter. So, like, the way that you approach the situation is definitely up to you. If that's the kind of followers that you want to get, go for it. Is that necessarily going to negatively affect the outcome of your show? Probably not. But people will view you differently. If you are constantly putting up naked, raunchy pictures of yourself, in lingerie, like, maybe people aren't going to look at you as a competitor. Maybe they're going to look at you more of, like, a model. Hey, if that's what you're getting after, then awesome. But, this is kind of directed more as physique sports oriented. So, I would definitely encourage you to always have some kind of level of professionalism. Hell, the bikinis are small enough, like, that these ladies are wearing anyway. When they're on stage, like, why is there a need to wear anything less than that? Especially if it's, like, just to show off, like, a progress picture. All right. Thomas said, my thoughts on coaches that stay lean year-round for advertisement purposes. So, yeah, Thomas and I have had this conversation before, and it's honestly sad, like, that people feel like they need to be lean year-round in order for them to get business. And I could see where someone's coming from, especially someone that's newer to the sport, and they're desperate for clients and they're trying to find ways to grow their business. Obviously, like, when you're leaner, a lot of people, you get more people's attention, your social media goes up, you might gain more followers. And yeah, there is a small reward for being leaner longer or holding a lower body fat percentage. And that's why I feel like initially a lot of these guys that, like, blew up on social media, they're the ones that don't have, like, a lot of fat in their abs, and, like, people see abs and they're just, like, blown away, like it's some magical unicorn, with a rainbow, like, shooting out of its butt or something. And it's like, oh my God, you have abs, like, you must know what you're talking about. Here, take my money. And I still don't get it. Like, that is definitely over my head. But when people see that, when uninformed people see that, like a person that just has a great body composition or low body fat set point, and then they they give them money like to coach them or to buy their supplements or to buy their clothing line. And it's, social media is a blessing and a curse when it comes to stuff like that. But like, do I feel like you need to be lean and in order to grow your business? Absolutely not. You're looking at the guy who's successfully grown his business each and every year for the past 4 years continuously since I've started coaching, and I haven't competed since 2015. So I've done it. I know a lot of other guys that have done it successfully. So if you're out there and you feel like that you need to hold a specific body composition in order to gain clients, that is a very, very short-term solution. I would suggest, and this is my personal opinion, that you just start educating yourself more, that you start working with more clients and getting those clients results, because then those clients are going to give you referrals, and then you grow your business like that. That's how I grew my business. I grew my business by doing videos like this as well, giving out a lot of free information. I've been, 15+% body fat, 15-16% body fat for a while now, right? If you guys have been following my social media accounts, you'll notice that I haven't taken my shirt off all that much until recent times, because I'm starting to finally get lean, but that hasn't hurt my business. Will getting lean help my business this year? Yes. It probably will, but I've seen steady growth without having to diet down like that. So hopefully a lot of you guys don't feel tempted to stay at a very low body fat set point, and especially if that's going to hinder your progress. And I think that might actually come up a little bit later. Bronwyn asked another great question by Bronwyn. Do I feel that my clients can harm my image with social media due to the pictures they post and what they post about themselves? Looking ahead, how will I protect my image now that social media is taking over? So that was a fantastic question by Bronwyn. And I was actually very impressed with that question when I saw that roll in. So yes, I will start with this. So can clients hurt my image? Well, let's start with this one. They can help my image. So by that, I feel like, yes, they can definitely hurt my image. I'll start with they could help, because like, for instance, Bronwyn, she's going through her contest prep. She necessarily doesn't tag me in every single post, and I don't feel like I need to be tagged in every single post, because at the end of the day, like, she's the one executing the plan. She's the one doing the work. But she does a good job of like letting people know that I coach her. Now, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, Bronwyn, let's say that she's not happy with how I'm coaching her or the end result or how I take her through her contest prep. She can also hurt my image by, if she doesn't get, good results. Placing at a show doesn't necessarily reflect like how I coach. She could do first, she could, finish, not where she wants to. But let's say if she goes off, which I know she won't, because she does a good job of this already, but I feel like she's pretty composed for a first-time competitor. But if she goes off on social media and blows up, and tells like everybody that I'm a terrible coach, or that I don't know what I'm talking about, or she tells all of her friends like, oh, Brandon doesn't know what he's talking about, like, don't go to him, she could definitely hurt me. Now, is that necessarily her posting on social media? Not necessarily, but I feel like they go hand in hand via social media. Like, so everybody is going to know by the end of Bronwyn's prep that I'm coaching her. And if she doesn't look good, like, people are going to see that, right? And then they're probably not going to want to come to me. But if she looks good by the end of her prep, hopefully, a lot of the way through, then maybe more people will, come to me for an additional prep. So, Bronwyn, that was a very good question. And I feel like this guys, and this is like, I don't know, one of the things that I'm very, very choosy on when I begin to work with somebody, before I start working with somebody, is I try my best to evaluate them as a person. meaning like their mindset, their approach. And if I feel like somebody doesn't fit the mold that I'm looking for, I will actually not work with them as a client. I will turn down their money. I will say like we're just not a good fit for each other, and I don't think the relationship will be mutually beneficial. It's not just because of the way that they are approached, that they present themselves on social media, but I'll be honest, guys, like when I get an inquiry with somebody, I mean, I read over their application, yes, of course, but then I go right to Facebook, I go right to Instagram, and I try to gain, they tell me in their application, I base off of their application, but then I go right to their social media, I try to see, like, what kind of person is this? So, I mean, if you're somebody out there that's, potentially going to inquire with me, like, just know that going forward, like, I'm going to be evaluating you from, the minute that application rolls into my email, and then I'm going to your Facebook, I'm going to your Instagram, and if I feel like you're someone that is going to have similar views, is that going to work well with us? Is that going to represent me well, and I'm hopefully going to help you out? Then we could start talking about working together. So it is definitely a mutual relationship, and we could both help each other, and we could potentially both hurt each other. And that's just kind of the game that we play. But that's why I've been more choosy along the way working with individuals. All right, very good question. Julie asked, why do I think there's such a strong connection between physique sports and social media? Julie, that's a great question. So, I mean, obviously, like, social media has become all about the picture and the snapshot, if I'll say. And with physique sports, it's obviously very visual, right? So, like, we're not necessarily evaluated like other sports. We're evaluated based off of our physical appearance. And it's not how much weight we can lift. It's not how far we could hit a ball. It's not any of that. It's about purely how we look. So I feel like social media has just given physique athletes an outlet to show off all their hard work. Because at the end of the day, like a lot of the other sports out there, I don't know if I want to use this term necessarily, but aren't as sexy as like bodybuilding or physique sports, right? It's not, obviously, like, we show a lot of skin. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but just not a lot of other sports are like that, so I feel like that's why it's just so common. And let's be honest, a lot of people that are in the fitness industry, physique athletes, I'm not saying this is everybody, but a lot of people are very vain, right? They like the way they look. They like other people looking at them. And it makes them feel better when other people do that. And social media is a direct outlet. Now, once again, I mean, this is not necessarily everybody, but some people, and even you would be surprised, in all honesty, some of the people, I mean, I could guarantee this. Like, let's put this, not unless you follow like 2 people on Instagram. I could guarantee that some of the bigger names that you follow on Instagram are actually very, very, very self-conscious people, believe it or not. They may be posting pictures of themselves that, they're like, oh man, like, I feel like I look like shit in this one. But they post it, and then everyone's like, oh my God, you look so good. You're beautiful, whatever, and it boosts their ego, right? And I feel like, some of these people need that ego boost in the fitness industry, especially in physique sports, because it's a lot of mental game that we play with physique sports. We need constant reassurance that we're looking good, that we're on track, that we're inspiring, and I feel like it's just a very good avenue for outreach, for just positive feedback from total strangers, and that's what a lot of people live for, which is kind of sad, but that's where we live in. All right, Vernon, thanks for tuning in, buddy. I'm glad you stayed around this long. Go train hard. James said, do I feel that social media takes the power out of the hands of the organization and puts the power back in the hands of the athletes. James, once again, and that's why I love doing these Q&As, because the questions get better and better and better every single week. So do I feel that social media takes the power out of the hands of the organization? So I feel like it does shift the balance, James, and I'll tell you why. Because I made this post the other day about how to choose a show. And actually, Martin shared my YouTube video on it. If anybody wants to go watch that, it is one of my most recent YouTube videos. It is in my episode of Dominate Every Aspect, Choosing Your Appropriate Show. If you see a show, and my main focus was lighting, if you see a show that has terrible lighting and the show is putting out pictures on social media that has atrocious lighting, the athletes can see that, they could complain about it, and they could either, one, avoid the show, or two, bug the hell out of the promoter to make the lighting better. Otherwise, they're going to not compete in their show. So yes, I do feel like that social media does shift the balance because we could see what other shows are looking like, and then we could either suggest or we could just go to the shows that we think are best, right? I mean, that's the job of the promoters, to make the show as best as possible for the athlete. And if word gets around, that this particular show is a show to go to, then awesome, go for it. But if that show has shit lighting, everyone's going to see it because they're going to, the promoter's going to self-promote all day long. They're going to post pictures of their show, and if somebody sees that they have terrible lighting, they're going to be like, whoa, time's out. I'm not going there. So James, I do feel like that it does help the athletes out a little bit. And then James also said, meaning that the athletes no longer need organizations to be known or gain notoriety. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing, James, and there's only, and I feel like this is a good time to talk about this, is that, and this is, I guess it's my biased opinion, there are two types of bodybuilders, two types of physique athletes. There's the competitive and there's the lifestyle. Now, as you guys know, I'm a professional natural bodybuilder competitively, right? I actually stand on stage and I go toe-to-toe with other guys in little trunks, all tanned up, right? That doesn't tickle a lot of people's fancies, right? That's not sexy. They don't enjoy that. You know what they do enjoy? They do enjoy getting likes on Instagram, getting a bunch of free shit, and having have total strangers worship them, if I could use that term appropriately, because that's what it is. It's a bunch of fangirls and fanboys out there, and not a lot of people like the competitive aspect. So do you need to be a competitor to be well known? The answer is no, because there's thousands of people out there who have never stepped foot on stage, who never will step foot on stage, who probably make more money than any competitor, that just go to the gym, or they just have a nice camera, Photoshop, and they have a decent face, and they are insta famous, and I use that in quotation marks for those of people who are re-listening, and they make their living by that. So I do feel like it does shift, once again, it shifts the power to people because they don't have to compete anymore in order to gain fame. Before, the people on the magazines, the people that made the big bucks were the competitors, and now it's shifting, it kind of shifted more towards the fitness models, and now it's shifting more towards like the Instagram fitness models. And by fitness models before, I mean like people that were on the magazines. And now it's these Instagram models that are getting these deals, a lot of free shit, tons of followers, and they don't compete. They are lifestyle bodybuilders. They are not competitive bodybuilders, and I feel like that does water down the sport a little bit. But that's their personal choice, right? It's not. I'm not trying to knock them, but just don't pretend like you're a competitive bodybuilder. Don't say that you're going to compete and then at the very last second back out, because there's been a ton of guys who have done that. They try to hype up their social media by like, oh man, I'm going to do this one show. I'm going to do this show. I'm going to do this show. And then next thing you know, they don't show up. right? And once again, I'm not naming anybody names, but if anybody remembers, like 2012, I think that's when that went down. Look it up. If you're a fan of bodybuilding, you probably know what happened. All right, Lydia asked, what would be the biggest disadvantage if a physique athlete chooses not to do so, to be on social media? All right, Lydia. Now, this is not, I should say, this is, at least I don't think it is. I haven't heard of any horror stories of natural bodybuilding, but I have heard horror stories, and I've witnessed it firsthand in the NPC. And I'll lead with this, I should say. If an application to a show asks you how many Instagram followers you have, that's a huge red flag. Because I've heard and I've seen and I've gone through people's Instagram accounts, people who have won shows, out of curiosity, out of sheer curiosity on my part, out of boredom, I wanted to see if this statement was true. I'm not saying it's true for every single show, but I've seen it happen. The people who have, and it's going to make sense here in a second, so stay tuned. The people who have more Instagram followers tend to place better at shows that people who either do not have a social media or who have a smaller social media. Here's why. Look at it, and I'm glad I went to business school because I could look at things from a business standpoint. If somebody has 100,000 followers and they do a bikini competition in the NPC, their reach is a lot larger than somebody that has 100 followers. So, if of those 100,000 followers, if even 20 girls are inspired to compete from watching one person, that's a lot of money that the NPC is going to get. If the person with 100 followers gets maybe one of her friends' followers to compete, that's not a lot of money. So, the NPC has gotten smart. And I'm not saying this is every single time, but I've seen it happen. They will, and like bikini is such a fickle category as it is. Like you're picking whatever looks good to you at that moment. So they'll go through someone's Instagram page or they'll look at the roster and be like, well, okay, who looks really good? And then for the overall, who has the most Instagram followers? And then they award that person, top honors at a show because they know that they're going to post about it and their reach is going to grow. So unfortunately, that would be considered a negative if you don't have an Instagram. But once again, that's only like specifically for the NPC, and that is super, super duper sad. And actually, what inspired me to actually look this up was a video that Bradley Martin put out. Not that I'm a follower of his, but if anybody wants to go and watch Brad's video, it's about why he quit competing, and I thought it was super duper eye-opening. I'm not going to dive into the details. I would suggest that you guys actually go and rewatch that. Once again, he competed in the NPC, and he experienced what kind of I just talked about. All right, Lydia asked another question, backing up her last one. She said, what, in my opinion, is the most beneficial aspect of physique sports? So I kind of talked about that a little bit earlier, but I'll just reiterate it. There's a couple things now. Is that, yes, we are presented with a lot of opportunities, positive opportunities, from either supplement companies, clothing lines, meal prep companies, what have you. So that's fantastic, right? We can get a little bit of money. We could get free stuff for competing in something that we love. 2, social media gives us a tremendous outreach. Just in this video alone, I don't know how many people have tuned in thus far, but I get over, and I mean, I'm not like saying this to brag because, like, let's be honest, guys, like, not that many people tune into these videos, but I do appreciate everybody tuning in as I get like 300 to 400 views on a live video, right? And I feel like that's a lot of views, and for me, for who I am, being a coach, and talking to you guys for hours every single week on here, and everybody comes back to watch these. Like, that's a big reach. Now, by no means am I Instagram famous or social media famous or whatever, and I honestly don't want to be. Like, I would rather be small and know my viewers when they're tuning in. And that's great. And like, I shouted out some guys who tuned in earlier, like Vernon and Kenton and Ben. And I do appreciate everybody tuning in. It's great. Like, I actually know, maybe I haven't met them in person, but like, I've interacted with enough of these people on social media, and they ask me questions, and I answer a ton of questions via Instagram and via YouTube and via Facebook. Like, everybody, I get messages every single day, I get emails every single day from people who just want to shoot me a quick question on their diet, on their training, on their supplementation, and it makes my reach so much more than I could ever do if I just went to the gym and that was it. Like, I've worked with, at this point, I honestly don't even keep track anymore, but well over 100 athletes. It might even be closing in on 200 athletes by now, which is crazy. Like, if I was just going to the gym and lifting weights and coming home and just seeing people on the street, like, there'd be no way that I could ever work with 200 people. So actually, and this is, I would say, one of the best aspects of social media is that if done correctly, you could actually have a very large impact on a lot of people's lives. Like I just said, like, I should do the numbers here eventually again, but like I said, I quit counting when I got to 100 athletes. Like, I've worked with well over 100 people, and that's 100 lives that I've helped change, and I feel like social media has played a large role in that. And let's be honest, like if it wasn't for social media, my business, and I feel like a lot of people's businesses wouldn't be where it's at. Now, would my business cease to exist? Absolutely not. Although, like, I do, these videos and I answer all these questions, like, believe it or not, guys, and this is kind of wrapping it up here, but my main money maker is referrals. And it's, maybe I got some of those people off of social media, but a lot of it comes from my clients getting great results, their friends hearing about it, other people seeing it, and then them coming working to me. It has actually very, very little to do with my presence on social media. I'm not one of these clickbait guys that are trying to make you buy my program. I'm trying to provide you with quality information, and that's why I like doing these videos. That's why I like interacting with you guys, because I feel like these videos, especially, and that's what Vernon said, like, he appreciates my honesty, and I feel like a lot of people, and this could be a negative, on social media, are very fake, and they hide behind a camera, they hide behind a picture, and then you talk to them in person, and they're very, very different. Like, they can't even put two sentences together. But online, they have all these well typed out statuses because they take hours to write a status. Like, I used to really take my time, like when I first started trying to write out a status, making sure it was, really worded correctly. Now, I do put a lot of thought into them, but I just bang them out and post them. Like, I don't take forever to take progress pictures or to take the most perfect shot for Instagram. Like, I just throw something up. Am I not getting the most out of social media by doing that, or on Instagram especially? Yeah, maybe. But I feel like and this is me personally, right? I'm not some pretty boy, and everybody has to evaluate for themselves. Like, I'm not a pretty boy. I don't have a phenomenal physique year-round, and I know what I have to offer. I do best on video. I feel like my knowledge comes off best on video. Now, granted, this is one aspect of social media that I am taking advantage of. Yes, I'm taking advantage of live videos. I'm taking advantage of YouTube because I feel, this is my personal opinion, I feel like it's very important to work with a coach. After all, that's why, I'm trying to do these videos. Is one of the benefits is getting some clients here and there. But I feel like it is very important when you're going to work with somebody to know that they're well-educated, well-spoken, and can put more than two sentences together on the spot. Because you have to have a forward-thinking process if you're going to be in this game. Now, that's, once again, Instagram, you can hide behind that. But that's why I like doing these videos, and this is how I personally like to use social media to my advantage, because I feel like it sets me apart from a lot of other people. And Ben is going to close us out with the last question here. So Ben, once again, thanks for tuning in, always asking great questions as always. Ben asks, do you feel the social media's pressure to maintain a certain body fat hinders gaining phases and potential to accumulate muscle, especially in younger generations? So Ben, absolutely, man. I've seen it all the time, especially with younger guys, because one week they're going to go into a bulking phase because they feel small because they saw somebody on Instagram or whatever, and then the next week they're like, oh man, I feel fat as shit. Like, oh, I just saw this guy, he was shredded, I want to get shredded. And they just go through these cycles of gaining and cutting and gaining and cutting and gaining and cutting. And they just don't make any progress, right? They're spinning their wheels. Now, is it nice to be lean? Visually, sure. Physically, no. Like, your strength is down. It's just not necessarily the funnest. Now, if you're fat and happy and your strength is going through the roof, like visually, once again, it doesn't look great. But Ben and anybody out there, you have to ask yourself, what are your long-term goals? Is your long-term goal just to gain a bunch of followers on Instagram or on Facebook based off of how you physically look? If the answer is yes, then okay, maybe you should stay a little bit leaner. But if your goal, like myself, is to develop a top world-class, natural physique, natural competitive physique, mind you, I know that I'm not going to be super lean year-round. I'm like, let's be honest, guys, I've been in pretty much a caloric surplus here for 3 years. I've not blown anybody away with how I've been looking. And I know that is my long-term goal. Like, my long-term goal has always been to try to compete for a world title. Whether that's going to be this year, whether that's going to be in 10 years. That's my goal. And being lean all the time, one, to just get likes on Instagram, or to two, get clients, like at least that's going to make me some money, getting clients. But I don't think it's worth it. My long-term goal of me trying to become a world championship is more important than me trying to get a few extra clients here and there from being lean, or me trying to get likes on Instagram. Although I do appreciate everybody who likes my pictures and who interacts with me on Instagram and on Facebook. On my priority list, that's not super duper high. My goals are, gain more clients, just make money for myself and my wife, love what I do, and then compete as a pro bodybuilder, trying to win a world championship here. So, social media does have, its pros and its cons, and, I feel like the scale is fairly well balanced, but it's all about how you use it. So for me, I'm trying to use it to put out quality information. I'm trying to present myself as someone, who gives true advice, who's not just blowing smoke up your ass. And I use social media more for videos. I don't necessarily hide behind pictures. I like to hear people. I like people to hear me talk because I feel like it lets you guys get to know me a little bit better. But not only, and it's just easier to convey information because, video is taking over, I feel like. Although pictures are great, you can learn a lot more in these 45 minutes that this has been going on than reading any caption that limits you to the amount that you could type. So once again, guys, I really do appreciate everybody who tuned in tonight. You guys have always been asking great questions. Continue to do so. If you guys keep asking these great questions, I will keep doing these videos every single week. It's because of you guys that I do these videos. So once again, thank you very much. Keep dominating every aspect, and I will see you all next Wednesday. Have a good night.